Okay, so today we are going to be starting off with a Spring framework. Okay, already we have discussed what you mean by framework. Okay, framework in the sense it makes developer jobs easy. We have told it because what you used to write in 100 lines of code, this line of code it is not necessary for us to write it. It is inbuilt. The framework has taken care. It's just 1 or 2 lines we will be writing and we will be doing the same task. Okay, that's what is about this framework. When it comes to Spring, in this there are n number of different modules you will be getting. Like for example, there is something called as Spring Core, there is something called as Spring MVC, Spring ORM, Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring IOC. Like this, there are n number of different modules are there. Okay, so but if you ask me, if in case I have to study all the modules, if you ask me, it is not necessary. But at least as and when it is required, you need to be keep learning those particular modules. Okay, like this few models which we are going to be discussing over here, okay, on Spring over here. I hope it is clear. Now there are certain features of Spring is available. Let's see what are the features of Spring. Okay, these are the features of Spring. Okay, Spring is lightweight, used for Java Enterprise Edition, it is saying. Okay, what do you mean by this lightweight, which is one of the features of Spring if you ask me? When it comes to advanced concept, we have seen certain jar files which we are in required with, we'll keep on adding it. Means certain dependencies files whichever is required, we'll keep on adding it, correct or not? Now Spring also needs certain dependencies file, but the number of dependencies files Spring required is lesser compared to other technologies. That is why Spring is called as a lightweight, which you will be calling it as. Okay, and one more feature is inversion of control. What is that inversion of control? In a while we will be discussing about it. There is something called as container. Container in the sense, this is a space that will be provided where objects is being maintained. Okay, not only objects creation will happen, if in case objects is not used, then deletion of the object, memory for the objects, everything will be available inside this container itself. Okay, so next, MVC framework. I hope MVC you have heard about it, model weave controller, which we have called it. That one framework is also available, which of one of the model which we are going to be discussing of Spring. Okay, next, transaction management means a request will be coming in, response will be going in, all those transaction also will be managed by Spring. In one module, whenever we are learning about it, we'll keep on exploring, because these are the feature of Spring. It's not about one module I am speaking about. Okay, next, JDBC exception handling, again this is one of the feature of the Spring. Okay, now what are the modules that we are going to be learning, so that we will cover these features? If you ask me, we are going to be learning Spring Core, Spring ORM and Spring MVC, along with that Spring Boot. Okay, these are the 4 technologies when it comes to Spring we will be learning. I hope it is clear. So first let's get started with the Spring Core. Okay, when it comes to Spring Core, it includes 2 modules. Okay, what are those 2 modules if you ask me? There is something, 2 concept actually. What are those 2 concept if you ask me? There is something called as inversion of control. Inversion of control is there, and one more concept which is dependency injection. Okay, so these are the 2 concepts which will come when it comes to Spring Core. Okay, all this one module in Spring is just solving one problem that is available. That is what is something which will happen over here. I hope it is clear. Now what is this inversion of control? What is this dependency injection if you ask me? Control, inversion of control, as the name itself says, control means what? Someone is controlling, like for example in your home, the father is controlling your whole home, that is called as control. Okay, but inversion of control means now your father is controlling whole home. For example, your father and mother has went out. If in that case the elder one, whoever is there, who is taking a control, means from your father the control has been inverted to your elder brother or sister, who will take care of the whole family that time. I hope it is clear. Means from you the control is being given to somebody else. It's a inverted. I hope it is clear. So that is what is the inversion of control. When it comes to Spring, how exactly this is the inversion of control, if it will act as, if you ask me. Now object, who is creating object? JVM means we are telling new, then you are making JVM activate and creating a object, correct. Now we will not say new and create a object of this class, all those things we will not tell, and will not ask JVM to create object. Instead Spring will create an object. You just have to tell which are the objects you want. You should tell the Spring and it will create an object and give it for you. And this is what is the inversion of control, where object creation is not done by us, instead it will be done by the Spring. I hope it is clear for everyone. There is one more concept called as dependency injection. What exactly, if you ask me? Let me take one example and explain this part. Now there are two different classes available. Can you just look into this class and tell me, is there any relationship between this? In your core Java you have learned something, aggregation, composition, association, something you have learned it, correct or no? Any relationship you are finding? Has a relationship, okay, where student has bike. This is has a relationship between these two classes are available. I hope it is clear. Now whenever has a relationship is available, now I want to assign some value to this particular bike object. How you will be assigning? I want to assign some value to this particular bike object. How you will be assigning? Assume these variables are private variables. Now tell me how you will assign a value for this particular bike object. Set bike, and for that what you will pass? Value. What value? I can pass 100. Can I pass one string? What you will be passing? Bike object you will be passing. And also if you want to call this particular get bike, you need to be creating an object of your student class also. So this is a process which you will be making. Means first you will create an object of your student, and yes, you will be saying you will create an object of your bike also, new bike, you will be getting bike object. Now using this student object you will call one method. Which method you will be calling? Set bike. As of now it is not there, all the setters, getters, everything will be there, and you will pass this particular bike object. And if you do this, you will be able to assign a value for your bike object, correct or not? This is how you will be doing, and this is what is nothing but a dependency injection. What I mean is, using setters also you can assign a value, but using constructor also can you assign a value? Yes. So in dependencies injection there are two things which will come into picture. One is called as constructor injection. Constructor injection means using constructor, if you are assigning a value, it is called as a constructor injection. Using setter, if you are assigning a value, it is called as a setter injection. I hope it is clear for everybody. So when it comes to Spring code, two things we are going to be learning. One is inversion of control, where object creation is not done by us, instead we will ask Spring to do it, and also one more concept which is dependency injection. I hope it is clear for everybody. Let's see how exactly I can achieve these two things. Okay. Now if in case I have to achieve this, there is one more concept which you need to do. Learn. What is that, if you ask me? I told you there is something called as container which is available, correct? So there is something called as IOC container, Spring IOC container, which you will be calling it as. Inside this container, where all the beans will be available, beans. What is this beans, if you ask me? Bean is a one more name for object. Okay. When it comes to Spring, whenever you heard about this word bean, it means that I am talking about the object creation itself. Means any object that you are creating from now onwards, it will get created inside your Spring container. Okay, it will be available. Means the Spring container is responsible for creating an object also, and destructing the object means deleting that object also, giving memory for that object. Everything will be done by the Spring container. I hope it is clear. So from now onwards, whenever I say bean is being created, where it is created? It is created inside your Spring container itself. I hope it is clear for everybody. Okay, this much is understood. Means next, let's get started on with how to use, means how to make Spring creating an this particular bean object inside your Spring container. Means where I will not say new and the class name to create an object. Instead I will just ask Spring to give that object and extract it. This is something, as well as dependency injection, how you will achieve is something which we will be seeing now. Is it clear for everybody? If in case I have to do this, whenever it comes to advanced concept, in the servlet we have used something called as web.xml for all the configuration file, correct or not? When it comes to Hibernate, we used to have hibernate.cfg.xml file also. That is something. Over here also there are certain configuration file which we need to use to do this. But there are 3 ways you can achieve this. Means there are 3 different types of configuration file using which you can achieve this. What are the 3 different ways if you ask me? Either you can go with class path XML application context, okay. It is a normal XML application way of doing this, okay. And there is one more way where file system XML application context, means one Java file you can create it, that will act as a configuration file. That is one more way you can do it. Or one more way is annotations way of configuration. When it comes to Hibernate only, we have seen either I can do it using XML or I can do it using annotations also. This is something which is available. So there are 3 different ways using which you can achieve this. All the 3 different ways we will be seeing, but one by one. I hope it is clear. And all these 3 are the classes which will implement your interfaces called as application context. I hope it is clear for everybody. So if you want, you can make a note of it, then I can proceed further. Okay. To understand these 2 concepts, let's take one example. Okay, the example I am taking is, this is the example where I have an interface called as customer interface, and I have one method inside that, guest customer detail. I have method, and there is a gold customer as well as a platinum customer which implements this particular interface. Obviously all those method also should be available. There is a variable which I have created as of now. As of now I will not talk about it. Let me just remove this part. I hope everybody know how to do this much. Yes or no? Let's go and create this much, and next step I will be telling about it. Okay. So let me create one interface and 2 different classes I will be taking. Okay. Let me go back to the editor. Now I'll create one new project over here. Inside that everything I'll work. Okay. What is that project I am going to be creating? I'll not create a normal project. I'll be creating a Maven project. I told you Maven project advantages. Adding a jar file, it is not necessary for you to download every time. You just have to write certain lines of code which will add all the dependencies file. When it comes to Spring also, we need certain dependency file, where by writing just 2 lines of code you will be able to get all the dependencies jar file. That's the advantage. So I'll make use of a Maven project. Okay, how to create a Maven project, one last time I'll be showing over here. So go to this file, new, and you should be saying a Maven project over here. Okay, once you click on this, let me get it over here. Okay, I need to just select create a simple project, whatever is there, just check with that and click on next. Now I need to provide group ID and artifact ID. Group ID is nothing but your package name. Artifact ID is nothing but your project name which I are giving. So group ID I will be saying it as com.tap. Artifact ID I will be saying it as Spring project. Okay. Now I will click on this particular finish button. Once you click on this, can you see the project is already created over here? Okay. Now what I will be doing, there are multiple different options is there. One option which you have is pom.xml, and inside your pom.xml all the dependencies file you need to be adding it. Okay. What are the dependencies file which I am in need of if in case I have to work with Spring Core? If you ask me, there are two dependencies file I need it. One is Spring Core and one more is Spring Context. Okay. These two are the dependencies file I need to be having. If you are not working with a Maven project, if you are creating a normal project, I need to download the jar file and do it. Now I have working with a Maven project means it is not necessary for me to download the jar file. Okay. Now I'll go to the Google and get these two dependencies. Okay. So this is your pom.xml which is available. Now I'll go over here, I'll be saying Spring Core Maven dependencies I will be telling. Okay. So Maven repository it is saying. I'll go. So as I said, always don't go with the recent version. Even I'll not go with the recent version 6. I'll go with the 5 version. Okay. So I'll go with 5.3.30. Okay. This is a version which I'm going to be selecting. I'll click on this. And this is the set of lines which is a dependencies file which I need to be copying. Okay. I'll copy this dependencies file. I'm just copying this. Okay. Now I'll go back. Now inside this I need to paste. Directly I should paste or I need to make use of any tag? Yes, I need to have one dependencies tag. Inside this I need to be pasting all the dependencies file. Now I have added. And once I add this, can you see there is one more section has come in called as Maven dependencies? It was not there previously. Now it has been come in. If I just open that particular dependency file, I'll just open this Maven dependency. You can clearly see there is a Spring Core jar file which got added. Now we didn't download it, but once I added this and Control S, if I save it, immediately that jar file has been come in. Okay. And there is one more dependency file, that's nothing but Spring JD it is available, means whenever you add Spring Core, accordingly it is coming in. I hope it is clear for everyone. One more dependency file I need. What is that? Spring Context. Let me just go back, and over here only search option is there that I'll search for. So I'll search for Spring Context. Okay, it is coming. I'll just press enter. This is your Spring Context which I'm going to be selecting. Again over here there are different versions you will be getting. Which version you need to be selecting means whichever the version of Spring Core is there, it should be the same version number I need to be selecting. Which version we have selected? Yes, 5.3.30, the same version I will be selecting over here. So the same 5.3.30. Again I will copy this. I will go over here. I will paste it. As of now only two dependencies. Once I say Control S, there will be few dependencies which will get added, and if I just do that, can you see over there in the Maven dependencies section, there are few more dependencies which got added. I hope it is clear. If in case you were doing normal project, all those jar file you need to download individually and do this. Now by just two set of lines you will be able to get all the jar files. Is it clear for everybody? Okay. Now the setup of this part is done. Next, what I will be doing is, I will go to this source main Java. Let me just construct the same interfaces and two classes I will be constructing. So inside source main Java, all the programs, whatever the Java programs you want to write it, you can write it over there. Okay. What I will be doing, inside this I will create one package. Inside this I will keep all my classes. Okay. So what I will be doing is, I will create one package. I will name it as com.tap.acad. Inside this I will create a package. First I will create a interface. I will name it as customer. What was the method that is available inside your customer? Get customer details. So return type I'll consider it as string, and I'll say get customer details. In the interface, by default the methods will be then okay. So it is not necessary for you to define, by default it will be available. Okay. Inside this com.tap itself, I'll say one class. Which class? Gold customer. I'll be and this class should implement one class, which is that customer class. So you can click on finish and then you can write implements all those things, or else directly you can over here it is saying interfaces. If there is any interface, directly add over here, it is saying you can add it over here. So what I'll be doing, I'll add it over here itself. I'll click on add and I'll search for which is the class I want to implement. It is a customer class, which I'm saying I'll say okay and finish. I hope it is clear for everyone. Now I can give any of this particular name. So over here I'll say it as gold customer. Clear? One more class which I want to create is a platinum customer. So inside the same package I'll be creating a class which I'll name it as platinum customer, and I'll add, means I want to implement a customer interface, so I'll add this also. I'll add and I'll finish it off. Now return type I'll be saying it as it is platinum customer. I hope it is clear for you. Now I'll create one main method. Inside that I want to create an object and call this method to just check whether it working or not. Okay. Now I'll just go to this source main Java. I'll say control N and I'll create one class. I'll name it as app. This is my main class which I am creating. Okay. Now I want to call get customer details, which is available inside your gold customer. What I should do? I want to call a method which is get customer details, which is available inside your gold customer. What I should do? Yes, I need to create an object of a gold customer, then using the object reference I can call this particular method. So the same thing I am doing, new gold customer, and I'll get this particular object. So what I'll name is gold, and over here what I can say, gold dot get customer details. Correct? Whatever it returns, I need to print that value. So what I'll be doing, directly I'll put this inside one print statement. I hope it is clear for everybody. And now if I were to execute, are you able to get the output? It is saying gold customer. Okay. But the problem is over here I am creating the object. As a user you are creating. I told you at the starting, I don't want to create an object. I want Spring to create an object. If you want to Spring to create an object, what I should be having, a configuration file where I can tell which are the classes object I need it over there. Okay. So where I need to be creating this configuration file, if you ask me, that's nothing but XML file. If you ask me, I should either create inside your source main Java, or I can create it inside source main resources. All the XML files is suggested you can create in any one of this, but the suggested one is always create inside source main resources. This is a suggested one, but if you create in any one of this, your code will work properly. Is it clear for everybody? Now I'll create it inside your source main resources itself. I'll create one XML file. So I'll go to the source main XML resources. I'll say control N, and I want to create a XML file. So I'll say XML file. Now I need to give a name for it. Whatever the name you want, you can give it. Okay, whatever the name you want to. But suggested name, there is one thing. What is that if you ask me? Application context.xml. This is a suggested name. If you give any other name also, your code will work. Okay, I'll show you. If you write other name, will it work also? I'll show you. With application context.xml, will it work also? I'll be showing you. Okay, so First, I'll be renaming it as application context.xml, after which I'll change the name and I'll show you about it, okay. So, I'll say application context.xml file. This is your XML file which I have created, and you know very well, any of the XML file there is certain configuration code I need to be writing, which you need to go to the official documentation and get that particular configuration code, okay. What I will be doing, I will just go to the configuration file and check what is that I need to be writing, and the same thing I will be writing it over here, okay. I will go back, and over here what I will be saying is, I will say application context in Spring official doc, I will say. So, I will go to this particular page. This is your official doc. You can clearly see wherever you can find docs, this is the official documentation it means, okay. I am going to this particular official documentation, and you can clearly see XML based configuration. This is also a configuration code that they have written it, okay. So, I will go for a recent version itself, okay. I will copy this. If in case I did not find any other things, I will paste the same thing, okay. So, I will just keep on scrolling. You have the same thing. Here also we have, but different is there is something called as P extra one thing which is available, but I am looking for one particular configuration file which contains context. What is the use of it, you will get to know about it. No, here something called as AOP is available, okay. If you see, each of the configuration file have different configuration way. Okay, I will make use of the same thing. What is that I was looking for is, there is something called as XI, there is something called as context is available, which I was looking for, okay. Why, you will get to know about it, okay. So, this is a file which I will be copying now, and I will go over here and I will paste it, and beans tag is missing. So, let me just close that particular beans tag also. I hope it is clear. Now, this configuration setup is done, okay. Now, over here in the app.java, I have created object of a gold customer. I told you I do not want to create an object. So, I will remove these two lines. But who has to create an object? Spring has to be creating an. If in case Spring has to create an object of this particular gold customer means, I should be writing certain lines. What is that I should be writing if you ask me? Inside this application context.html, I need to have one tag. What is the tag if you ask me? The tag only is called as a bean tag, which I need to be making use of. This is your opening tag, this is your closing tag. Bean in the sense what? Object I told you, okay. Over here I need to be having two attributes I will be having. What are those two attributes if you ask me? One attribute is called as a ID, and one more attribute is called as a class. These are the two attributes I need to be defining, okay. What is this I need to be writing means, which object it has to be created, means for JVM you will be telling new means activation of JVM will happen, and after that you will tell which class object you need to be creating. Now the same thing I need to tell which class bean has to be created. Over here I need to be specifying the class name, okay. What was the class name? Customer, gold customer. So, I should be saying it as gold customer. I hope it is clear for everybody. Now, once you create an object means you will be saying new gold customer, you will be saying. Will you leave as it is or you will give some reference for it? Reference of for the object you will be giving, right? Something like gold you will be giving it, right? The same thing in the id you need to be telling a reference for your objects. Okay, so what I'll be telling over here is nothing but a gold, which I'll be telling. This is how I'll be specifying. I hope it is clear. If you write this line of code, object of this particular gold customer will get created. Is it clear for everybody? Let's go back and write this much and check will objects of gold customer got created or not. Okay. Now what I'll be doing, I'll go back and over here what I'm going to be saying is a bean tag which I'll be making use of. I'll make use of bean tag. Now I need to be specifying two attributes, one is id and one more is class. Okay. Now over here what I will be specifying is class is nothing but your gold customer. Okay. Next id is nothing but a reference that I will be giving. I will give it as gold. So only this much if you write it, object of a class is get created. Okay. But in the main method I need to get that object, correct or not? So how exactly it get created? Now if you ask me gold customer object got created, if you ask me, no, it is not yet created. We have asked Spring to create it, but when Spring will get created with this object, if you ask me, once you load that application context.xml inside your main method, once you load it, the object of this particular gold customer will get created. How I can load this application context.xml inside your main method, if you ask me, that is when you need to be creating an object of a class. Which class, if you ask me? I told you at the starting there are three different ways of you creating a configuration: class path XML, annotations way, the file system, Java. That is what is the, those are nothing but a classes available. I need to create an object of a class and I need to load this application context. I hope it is clear. How I'll do this, if you ask me, I'll say new, I'll say class path application context. This is what, and inside this I need to be passing what is the name of that particular XML file I need to be passing. That's why I told you it is not necessary for you to write the same name. You can write any name because the same name you will be passing over here itself. Okay. So what I'll be doing inside the double quote, I can just say it as application context.xml. And if you ask me, is it mandatory to pass a name? No, it is not mandatory. When it is not mandatory, if you ask me, when you follow the naming convention, like you have given it as application context.xml, then it is not necessary. But if you have given some other name, then it is mandatory too. Okay. Now without passing it will work. First I'll pass it and I'll show you, and without passing also I'll be showing, because by default if you don't pass anything, it will search for this name itself and check whether it is available or not. If you have given with some other name, it will not be able to identify. I hope it is clear. So now this is a name which I will be giving and I will get the reference. So I will say it as context. Okay. I will print this context object and check whether objects of this particular classes are being created or not. Now I will just go and print this context. I hope it is clear. Now I will execute. It is giving you some exception. Let's check what is the exception that is available. Cannot find gold customer, it is saying. It is saying it is not able to find the class gold customer. Have we created a gold customer class? Yes, but still it is saying it is not able to find. Where you have created this gold customer class? Inside a source main Java. Inside that? No. When package we have created, right? Whenever it is just trying to find it in a default package. We have not created inside a default package. That's why it is not able to locate gold customer. Okay. Now I should specify complete path of the class, only then it will be able to identify. Okay. Now I'll go to this XML And over here, I'll not say gold customer only. Instead, I should say the package and then a gold customer. What is the package? com.tap.acad. And inside this, it's a gold customer which is our. Now it will be able to locate the gold customer class. Okay. If in case I just go to this app.java and execute this, something got executed, means the context that you are printing, that object, it got printed. So there was no exception. Previously you got it, now it has been resolved. But were you able to get to know object is created or not? No, you didn't get to know whether object is created or not. How you can check whether object is created or not, if you ask me? Now you tell me, whenever you are creating an object, what you are calling? Constructor it is calling. So if in case this is Spring is creating an object, it will call a constructor, correct or no? Which constructor? Zero parameterized constructor. So let's go back in the gold customer, let's create one zero parameterized constructor, write one print statement to just get to know whether object got created or not, because while creating object, constructor call should happen, correct? So what I'll be doing, I'll go to the gold customer class. I'll go over here and I'll go to this gold customer. Inside this, I'll have one zero parameterized, I'll say, yeah, zero parameterized constructor. Inside this, I'll have one print statement. I'll say gold customer object is created. I hope it is clear. Now I'll go to this app.java. Now I'll try executing this. Can you see? Gold customer object is created, means Spring has created an object of this particular. Where it is created? Inside your Spring container, it is already created and kept. I hope it is clear for everybody how you can create an object of any particular class is clear for everybody. When it comes to Spring, this is how you need to create an object. Okay. Now, I want to get that object now, because right now you cannot get the object. Object is created. You know object is getting created, but I want to get the object reference so that I can access the methods that is available inside that. How can you get the object if you ask me? Using this context, I need to call one method. What method if you ask me? There is a method called as getBean. There is a method called as getBean. Bean in the sense object. Then you need to pass which object you want it. So it will give you an object of it. Okay. So what I will be doing is, I'll go over here and I'll say context dot, what I should be saying it as, get bean I'll be saying. And over here I'll be passing something. What is that I need to be passing? Which object you want to extract I need to. Over here, which object I want? Gold customer object. I cannot say complete last name over here. Instead, what I should be saying if you ask me, I should be saying the ID value. What we have defined over here, the same ID value I should be passing. Now I'll copy this, I'll go over here and paste it. Okay. Now I'll get this particular object reference. So over here it is giving you always of type object itself. If you want, you can typecast it, okay. Explicitly you can typecast it to gold customer, or if you want, you can leave it as it is. But now I'll explicitly typecast it to gold customer itself, okay. What I'll be doing? I'll just go over here and I'll say gold customer. Then I need to be, it is giving you error because it is asking me to typecast also, I'll typecast it. Now you got access of the gold customer. Using this, you can call a method, that's nothing but get customer details is available, right? I can call this particular method. Now the same thing I'll be doing. Bean dot get customer details. I'll cut the statement and I'll put it inside a print statement to just check whether it is working or not. I'll say bean dot get customer details, okay. Let me execute and check is it working or not, okay. If in case I wait to execute, can you see? It has called the method. So there is a spelling mistake, it is got customer which happened. So but I hope it is clear for everybody. It is calling this particular method, and this concept only is called as a inversion of control, which you will be calling it as. Is inversion of control part is clear for everybody? And in Spring, that's what I told you, Spring is all about, there are n number of different modules are there. Each module is available to solve one problem that is available. Problem in the sense, it is giving you a easier solution. Object creation, it is not necessary. Whenever you want to object, you will be creating new customer, all those things. Wherever you want, how many ever classes you are creating, you just have to ask for it and it will give you. That's the advantage of this particular Spring. I hope it is clear. So when it comes to Spring Core, there is one more concept which is available. What is that? Dependency injection. Now let's see how I can achieve this dependency injection over here. Okay. Now to do this, what I'll be doing is, as of now I'll take one simple example. Okay. What is that if you ask me? I'll go to my gold customer class. Inside this, I'll define two variables. Okay. Two variables I'll be defining. What are those two variables if you ask me? I'll say int id, and I'll make this as a private. Private means inside this only I can access. If I want to set a value, either I can use constructor or I can use a setters only. Okay. Now I'll define one more variable, private string, and I'll say it as, what is that, name. Okay, two things I have created. Okay. Now if I want to set a value for this, what are the ways you can set the values? Setters or a constructor. Let's set a values using constructor first, then we will see about a setters. Okay. If I want to set a values using constructor, how exactly I need to create a constructor? Parameterize constructor itself, right? The same thing I am going to be creating. I will not create it, instead I will ask user to create it. So I'll say constructor using fields. I'll generate. I hope it is clear. So constructor using fields we have generated. Now I'll go to the main method and execute. Okay. So no changes, just the two variables and one more new constructor. I'll go back and I'll execute. Let me just check. Okay, I'll execute. Is there any difference that you are seeing? No. Okay. Now what I'll be doing is, I'll go to my gold custom. As of now, I want to call a parameterized constructor so that I can set a value for them. So what I'll be doing, I'll remove this particular 0 parameterized one. I will not have 0 parameters, I'll have only the parameterized constructor. Okay. Now I'll go to the main method. I'll execute. What is happening? Immediately an exception is coming. Let's read out what is the exception. Error creating bean with name gold defined in the class path resources, it is saying. So here you can clearly see it is saying. Okay. Why you will see about it. Instantiation of bean is failed. Instantiation means creation of object is failed. Okay. Now if I just go over here, fail to instantiate, can you see over here something? No default constructor is available. Means what type of constructor it is trying to call? 0 parameterized constructor it is searching. As of now, in our case, a parameterized constructor we have defined. If in case parameterized constructor we have defined, means by default there will not be 0 parameterized constructor, means default constructor will not be there. If we want, we need to define that 0 parameterized constructor so that it is. Why it is saying no default constructor if you ask me? We have defined one constructor, why it is not calling that particular parameterized constructor if you ask me? Let me take you back and tell you about it. In the application constructor, application context, we have just said this much. Whenever you state this much, means there is no constructor is available. Means you are trying to call a 0 parameterized constructor itself. Means whenever you state this, the Spring will call an object like this itself. It will not pass any parameter to your constructor. This is how it will be. But now I don't have a 0 parameterized constructor. I want to call such constructor which has a parameter. How many parameters? two parameters. So I need to define something over here so that it will call this two parameterized constructor. What is that I need to be calling means? That is when there is one more tag comes into picture. Okay. What is that tag if you ask me? There is something called as, I need to be saying it as constructor arg. I should be saying something called as constructor arg. The same thing I am copying and pasting it over here. This is what is something I need to be. Inside this constructor arg, it accepts two parameters. What are the two parameters if you ask me? One is a name, one more is a value. It accepts. Okay. So how many constructor arg if you I need to be creating if you ask me? How many parameterized constructor you are calling? How many parameters are there for a constructor which you are calling? Two constructor. One to set for ID, one more to set for your name. Okay. So the same thing I will copy and paste it for. I will copy this part and I will paste it over here. Now first value I need to set for a ID. Okay. Now name, how exactly I need to be defining if you ask me, how I have defined inside a instance variable the same name I need to be providing. Means what is that I have provided? When it is accepting, how exactly I have provided the name, same thing I need to be provided. How exactly I have provided over there, same thing I need to be provided. So that it will go and sit in this and it will be assigning a value for this. I hope it is clear for everyone. So I should be specifying it as ID. So I will go over here and say it as ID. Whatever value you want to specify, you can specify. I will give it as 101 as of now. Okay. Name means a name attribute only which is available. For that I want to assign one value. I will say it as tap as of now. I hope it is clear. So this is how you can set a values using your constructor, and this is what is called as a constructor injection, which you will be calling it as. Using constructor you are assigning a value. This is a constructor injection. I hope it is clear. Now let's go back and define this and check is it working or not. Okay. So will you be able to assign a value or not? Okay. Let me take you back. I will go over here, application context. Over here I will be defining this. I will say constructor args. Okay. Now two attributes I need to be defining. What are those? One is a name, one more is a value. So name and one more is value which I will be defining. Okay. Name is in the sense I will be saying it as ID. Okay. Value for this if you ask me I will say it as 101. Okay. Now I will have one more constructor. One is for name and one more is for value. What I will be saying it if you ask me I will say it as tab. This is what is something. Let me check what is the error that you have getting. Sorry? Constructor spelling, okay. Oh, this is also giving a. Okay. There was a spelling mistake. I'll say it as name, this one. One more is ID and 101. I'll copy this name and paste it over there. Okay, it's working. Now let's go back to the main method and execute this. Okay, whether now if there is no exception means object is getting created. If in case I just go and execute this, can you see it's getting called the method. Now let's try accessing those variables ID value as well as name value I can access. Now how can I access those particular ID and name value? using references. Sure, can you call that? Can you call? No, private variables, how you will be calling? Getters only I need to have. So what I'll be doing, I'll just have this getters. So I'll say generate getters and setters, I'll just select. Now you have setters, getters available. Now I'll go to this main method and over here I'll say using this bean, I'll call a method called as get id, okay, and using this same bean, what I should call a one more method? Get name. This is the method. If in case really it is creating an object using constructor, it should give 101 and tap as a value, okay. And if I wait to execute, can you see? And this is what is called as a constructor injection, I told you. Is it clear for everybody? And there is one more thing, what is that? Setter injection means setting up a values using your setters is to be done, not using a constructor, okay. Now how can you do this if you ask me? Again I'll go back, I'll go to your gold customer, I'll remove this constructor because I don't want to set a values using constructor. I have removed. Once I remove this constructor, can I say this as a constructor? So if I say constructor, I told you how many constructor are there, that many parameterized constructor it will be calling. Means it will try looking for such constructor which has 2 parameters. Do we have that? No. If in case I just have to execute and show you, is that really happening or not? If I just go over here, I'll execute. Immediately an exception comes. And what is that exception? Let's read about it. Error creating bean with name gold customer, it is saying. Cannot resolve matching constructor on a bean class because it is trying to search for 2 parameterized constructor. In that it is 0 parameter, means default constructor which is available, okay. Now I'll go back, I'll go to the application construct. I should not be saying it as constructor, but if I remove this 2 constructor, yes, it will obviously call this 0 parameter, but I need to set a value for your id and name, correct, using what? Setters I need to be. So whenever you are assigning a values using setters, there is a different tag I need to make use of. What is the tag if you ask me? Instead of constructor arg, I should be saying it as a property tag. I need to make use of a property tag. So other than that, attributes remain same, only changes is in your tags, okay. What I'll be doing, instead of constructor arg, I'll replace with property. The same thing I'll copy and paste it over here. The same thing over here also, over here also. That's all. It will be assigning a value based on your setter right now, not using a constructor. I hope it is clear. Only the tag names are changing, okay. Now if in case I just go back and do this, execute this and check is it really happening or not. If I go to this main method and execute, can you see? You are able to access this, and this is what is nothing but where setter injection is done. So IOC, inversion of control, and using that dependency injection using constructor and setter. I hope it is clear. And all this way, how you have done? Using XML way of you doing it, correct or not? I told you there are 3 different ways which we are going to. This is one way. Same concept we will be seeing using annotation, same concept using Java configuration file which we will say, okay. But before I move for that, I want to show you one more thing about your dependency injection. What is that if you ask me? Let's assume this is my requirement, where if I take you back, over here as of now there is a customer, gold customer, platinum customer, okay. Now I want to have one more method inside this. What is that one more method if you ask me? I want to have one method called as get address details. Address detail, okay. So obviously this is available inside this customer, means the same thing will be available inside your gold customer. The same thing will be available inside your platinum customer also. It is available. Now I want to define one variable called as address, where I want to store all the addresses. How exactly? I don't want to consider it as a string. Okay, the type of that address I want to consider it as a address itself, means I want to have a class for it. Okay, the type is nothing but that address only I will be considering, means I will have inside my platinum customer a variable called as address. Okay, type is address and variable name also I will give it as address. I hope it is clear for everyone. Again over here in the gold customer also I will be having one address. Clear for you guys? Means there is a class corresponding to that available. Means over here what I will be doing is I will have a class. Which class? If you ask me, there is an address class is available. Object reference of the address class you need to be assigning. That is what you have seen right now in the composition part I showed you, right? How you will be doing? First you will create an object of a platinum customer, then you will create an object of address. That object reference you will be assigning for this, correct or no? The same thing you need to do. Again this I will not be doing. Instead I want Spring to be doing it. I hope it is clear for you. So for this, let's create this address class. Okay, then what I will be doing is I want a object of address class also to be created, where I will not create it. What I will be doing instead, I will ask Spring to create that. This much everybody have understood how to do this. This much we will do now. Okay, now if I just go back, I will go over here. Inside your com.tap.acad, what I will be doing is I will just create one more class, and what I will be naming is I will say it as address. Inside this I will create one method. Okay, I will say it as get address. Okay, whenever they call this particular address, it will give you all the address details of it. Okay, as of now I am just hard coding that. Okay, moving ahead you can just take it from a user, everything we can do it. Okay, so I will say get address details. I will have a return type as string. So I will say return, I will say it as directly Bangalore. Things are clear for everybody? Now I want to create an object of this address, means where I should be saying this? Inside application context. So what I will be doing, I will have one more bean tag. Okay. Over here I need to be saying ID, and then also I will say it as class. Class, what is that? Inside your com.tap.acad, this class is available. So I will say it as address. Okay. So over here I will say it as address. Now it will create an object of this address. Okay. Now what I want to do is inside your gold customer I want one variable of type address, correct or not? Let's go and define this. Over here I will go over here and I will say private string. What I should be saying it? Sorry, not string. What is that? Address, and I will be saying it as address. Okay. Now if I want to set a value for it, how can you set it? Either using constructor or using setters. Anyways, now we are going with a setter way. Let's go with a setter way of injecting it. Okay. So what I will be doing, I will create a setter and getters for it. I hope it is clear for you. If you want to set a value for this, what I should be doing? I should be going inside your application context and I need to create one tag. Which tag? Property tag I need to be creating. The same thing I will be defining it over here. I will say property tag. Now I should be saying a name. What is the name? Address, means over here in the gold customer, what is that I have defined? The same thing I need to be pasting. I will copy this and I will go over here and paste it. What is the next value? Value it is saying. But you tell me, for the address, what you want to assign? What is that? Object references you want to assign, correct? Or means this address object reference you want to assign it, correct or not? So now I don't want to specify a value. Value in the sense, when you have to make use of value attribute, if you ask me, whenever you want to assign a value for primitive data types. Primitive data types, only then you have to make use of an attribute called as value. Now this address, is it a primitive data type? No, it's an object kind of value for which you are assigning, non-primitive data type. Whenever you are assigning a value for non-primitive data type, I should not be making use of attribute value. Instead, I should be saying a ref, means a reference I am assigning, okay. So over here I will be saying it as references. What references I need to provide over here? Object reference of address. Object reference of address is available inside this ID. Correct or not? I told you, it will create an object of this class, and reference is nothing but what you have mentioned inside this ID, correct? Same thing, you take it and paste it over here. Is it clear for everybody? I will go over here and copy this and paste it. Any confusions in this part? Clear for you guys? Let's go and execute this and check, is it working properly, no error or not first. Okay, then we'll see whether you are able to access the get address which is available inside your address class or not. Okay, let me go to your main method and execute first. It's working, there is no error. Now first what I'll be doing is, I'll get address details, means I'll call a method called as get address, which is available inside your gold customer. Can you see over here? Get address, I'll call it. Okay, I'll go over here, I'll call a method called as bean dot, the method get address. If I call this method and execute it, what is happening? Yes, it is printing object reference, means hash code value it is printing. But what we want? We want to call one method and execute whatever is there, correct or not? How you can do it if you ask me? Over here only directly call the method, means first get the object reference of address and then call it. Instead what I will be doing is, I will go to my gold customer. Over here address in the sense what? Object reference of your address. So what I will be doing? Address dot, directly I will call the method. Anyways, it is returning you of type string only, correct or not? So over here I will be saying get address details, and I will change your return type to string. I hope it is clear for everybody. What I am doing, let me just repeat. Address is nothing but your object reference of your address, okay. Using that object reference, I am calling a method. Which method? Get address detail method, which is available inside your address class now. Using object reference, you can call the method the same thing. What this method is returning you of type string, same I will be returning it over here. Clear for you? Okay. Now I will go to your main method and execute and check, is it working or not. If I just go to your main method and execute this, can you see? Bangalore, it is executing. This is one more way, because if in case references you are assigning a value, this is how you need to be assigning. It's not value attribute you need to make use of. Instead, which attribute I need to make use of? A reference attribute. I hope the constructor injection as well as setter injection is clear for everybody. Okay. So for today I will stop it over here, because the same thing in terms of annotations we need to know. But for that, first you execute this much, so that if there is any error we can fix it over here, so that the next class it will be easy. Okay. Tomorrow we will be done with Spring Core. Next it's about Spring ORM, then Spring FVC is something which it will not maximally drag, because each of the concept is just one solution for one particular problem, where an easy way of you implementing the code. Is it clear? So whatever is being done, just execute it, so that tomorrow it will be easy, where we will make use of our annotations and do that. Okay. Yeah. Open the laptop and start working.